Welcome, everyone. This is Debbie Neighbor with National Kitchen and Bath Association. You're here for our second webinar of the month on design software. Today's session is called Design and Sell Using 3D Software. Philip Gibney, who is a sales and marketing consultant with Chief Architect, is here with us. And Philip, we're ready to get started. Thanks so much for being with us.
All right. Thank you, Debbie. Well, welcome, everyone. We're excited that you can join us today. As Debbie mentioned, my name is Philip, and I'm with Chief Architect Software. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Chief Architect is a leading developer and publisher of 3D home design software for kitchen, bath, and interior design. And in this webinar, we're going to explore how using automated design tools can increase your productivity and speed up your design process. We're going to show how 3D rendering can help sell and upsell your job and help the client visualize the design and material options. And we're going to examine how home design software increases the speed and accuracy in creating floor plans, wall elevations, and more. We're going to be using the actual software to create a kitchen design. And we're going to start off by creating our initial kitchen floor plan. We'll then take a look at how objects and manufactured cabinetry work in Chief Architect. We'll create a wall elevation and automatically dimension it. We'll look at design options in the example having an island with various countertop design options and various material options throughout the plan. We'll look at the various 3D rendering techniques, and we'll be using 3D rendering as we go throughout the webinar. And then we'll take a look at our mobile app, the 3D viewer. So with that, let me go ahead and switch my screen around here. And the design we're going to be designing is this design you see in the background of the slide. All right, so here I am in the software. Up at the top of the screen, there's different tools. There's going to be tools for walls and doors, windows, cabinets, and so forth. And these same tools are available through the drop-down menus. So to get started, I'm going to select my wall tool at the top. And when I do that, it opens up a menu on the left-hand side. And these other wall tools that pop up are called child tools. So there's an option for exterior walls, interior walls, foundation walls, and so forth. And I'm just going to select our straight interior wall and come into the plan. Now I'm going to right-click with my mouse and click and drag my mouse out. And as I'm dragging, you can see that the program's giving us a temporary dimension showing how long this wall is. And that dimension is formatted in inches because the program comes with a template for kitchen, bath, and interior designs that has a lot of settings already pre-configured that can help speed up your design process. So I'm just going to draw 4 walls. And when I draw 4 walls, I form a room. Now, there's a couple ways to dimension your rooms. The quickest way to dimension a room in Chief Architect is to select the wall, and you'll get that temporary dimension going from the left wall to the right wall. And when I move my mouse over that dimension, it changes to a hand icon. And when I click on it, I can type in a new value and then press enter. And then that wall is going to adjust its position to account for the new dimension. So I did that for the wall on the right, and then I'm going to select the wall on the bottom, and we get another temporary dimension. And I'm just going to click on it and enter in my dimension. So at any point in your design, you can take a 3D view. To take a 3D view, you go up to the option at the top for your 3D camera tools. And there's a couple of different camera tools, and we'll be using some of these during the demo. But I'm going to use this perspective floor overview, which is like a bird's eye view that has the roof and ceiling removed and just kind of allows you to easily look into the space. So now that we're in our 3D view, with the left click on my mouse, I can rotate. With my scroll wheel on the mouse, I can zoom in and out. If I click and hold that scroll wheel, I can pan back and forth. So pretty easy and fluid to navigate through your 3D views in the software. The next thing I want to do is I want to tell the program how this room is going to be used because it helps automate our design process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in the room, and when you click on rooms or objects in the software, you have more tools that become available in the bottom left-hand corner. You can see in the very bottom of the corner, might be a little bit hard to see, but it says room. And if I click on this button, it says open object, and it opens up the room specification. These specifications work basically the same for all items in the software in that you have different categories of things you can adjust on the left-hand side. You can make the adjustments in the middle, and then you can see a preview of what those adjustments will look like over on the right. So here I'm on the general panel, And under here, it says room type. And if I switch from our room type to the kitchen, the room type is going to update based on our default settings to apply things like our materials and some of our dimensioning tools. As a kitchen and bath designer, you may need to be aware of your finished floor height values. If you click on the structure panel, you can make those type of adjustments here. And watch what happens to that graphic on the right-hand side as I bring my mouse into the field for the finished ceiling. You can see that that value updates, and as I hover my mouse over different fields, it gives us feedback, just letting us know what we're going to be changing. So just a simple way the software makes it easy to recognize changes you're making. And then as you continue down the left-hand side, you can make other changes to the room. If you want to adjust the molding, you can do so here, add a wall covering and so forth. You make those adjustments. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And you can see how in the plan, our flooring material updated and the base molding material updated based on what I had set up in my default settings. And if we look back in our floor plan view, you can see that the program added a room label indicating it's a kitchen. So the next thing I'm going to do, if we take a look at the photo of the finished design, is we're going to add some windows into this back wall. So you can design in both 2D or 3D. It's easy to design in either view. I'm going to jump back to our 3D view and navigate to this back wall. And to add a window, you just go up to your window tool and then come over to the wall. And you can see that little gray outline indicating where it's going to be placed. And I'm just going to click once and the program will add it. Now, if I select on the window, you can see I get little handles on either side of it, along with temporary dimensions showing its size. It's really easy to modify objects in 3D and Chief Architect. Just using these handles, you can resize it. And then again, you have options in the bottom toolbar to further interact with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on it, which opens up the window specification where we can design the window. So here we can specify the window type that we're using. You can specify information about the height values or the floor to top, floor to bottom. And let's adjust the floor to bottom a little bit. And then over on the left-hand side, you can further design it. So if you wanted to design the casing profile, you could do so. Choose a lintel to use. Change information about the sill, the sash, and so forth. So pretty easy to just go down this list and design the window how you would like to. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. That bumped it up a little bit. And if we take a quick look in our floor plan view and we zoom in and we click on this window, you'll notice that we get a temporary dimension. And these temporary dimensions are set up in that kitchen and bath template I was talking about to locate the window casing, since that's probably what you want to dimension to as an interior designer. And then it's also going to the wall surface. So if we wanted to adjust where this window is positioned in the wall, with the window selected, we can select on this dimension, type in how far we want it away from the wall and press enter. And that's going to update its position. So the next thing we need is another copy of this window over on the right-hand side. Now, I've already added this window once and I've resized it and positioned it from the wall. And instead of doing that again, I'm just going to take this window that we've already added, copy it, and mirror it to the other side of the wall. So with the window selected in the bottom toolbar, there's an option here that says copy. And when I click on it, I can just come in and place a copy if I wanted to. But you'll notice that we get a sub-menu pop up for further ways we can copy and paste it. And I'm going to select this option that says reflect about object. And when I move my mouse into the room, you can see how the room highlights in gray and there's a gray dashed line going through the middle of the room. If I click once, it'll place a mirror about that line in the other half of the wall. So pretty quick and easy to get those windows added into the plan. So the next thing I'm going to add is going to be a range and a range hood over in this area of the plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up our library browser, and the library browser contains over 100,000 items and materials that you can use in your design. There's an option for the core catalogs, and these are items that download by default when you download the program. There's an options for bonus catalogs and manufacturer catalogs. And these are items you can download from our website. And then the user catalog is where you can save items that you use frequently or that you want quick access to. So I'm going to expand our manufacturer catalogs folder, and we partner with hundreds of manufacturers to get your favorite content available in the software. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to our Wolf manufacturer and expand the folder. And you can see all the different types of items that they offer. And I'm going to expand the gas ranges folder. And I'm just going to go down to a gas range that I want to use and click on it. And you can see how this looks in the little 3D preview. And I'm just going to bring my mouse in the plan, and you can see a little gray outline indicating where it's going to be. And I'm just going to click once, and the program's going to add it. And then I want to make sure I have it centered along this back wall. So I'm going to select that range. And in the bottom toolbar, there's an option that says Center Object. And when I click on it, again, we get kind of that gray dashed line indicating where we're going to be centering it. I'm going to click once, and it's going to be centered in the room. So I'm going to do a similar process for a hood for the range. And I have this saved in my user catalog where I have several items already saved that we're going to be using today. So I'm going to click on the range hood and come into the plan and click once to place it. And then again, I'm going to make sure I have it centered directly over the range. So pretty quick and easy to add items into your design. And if we jump back to our floor plan view, you might want to start having more permanent dimensions being developed around your plan. If we click in the room, in the bottom toolbar, there's a feature that says NKBA Auto Dimension. When I click on it, it's going to add dimensions going around the room in accordance with NKBA standards, such as picking up those window casings and picking up center lines. And you can use these dimensions to move and modify objects. For example, if I click on the window, you can see not only do we get that temporary dimension, but if I come up to the more permanent dimension string, I can click on it and edit it. We're not going to make any modifications for now, but if we jump back to the 3D view, the next thing I wanted to talk about is how cabinetry, and specifically manufactured cabinetry, works in Chief Architect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to our cabinet tools, and there's a lot of different cabinet options in the software for a base cabinet, wall cabinet, full height, fillers, and so forth. But with our base cabinet selected, I'm going to come in and click once to place it into the design. Now, your cabinet's going to come in based on your default settings, such as having the door and drawer style and material selected, hardware, and the countertop. But you can modify these by adding different door styles through the library browser. Now, what makes a cabinet a manufactured cabinet in Chief Architect is by using content from one of our manufacturers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up to our Wellborn Cabinets manufacturer, and you can see that there's a few different lines available. And if we expand these folders, you can see that they have different items for doors, hoods, legs, and so forth. The items that we're going to focus on in this webinar are going to be the door styles and the wood species. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the door styles folder, and you can see that there's a lot of different items that they offer. And I already have one in mind that I want to use, this one called Rose Hall. If I click on it, again, you can see a little 3D preview as to how it's looking. And watch what happens to my mouse when I bring it into the plan. You can see that it changes, and watch what happens as I bring it over the door. The icon updates, indicating that we can exchange the existing door in the plan with the new door. And if I click on it once, we can see how that updated. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the drawer, select our new drawer, and just bring it over and click once. And there we've got that updated. You can see how this cabinet is coming together. And then the next thing I want to do is change the material being used. So I'm going to go down to that wood species and finishes folder. You can see that there's a couple of different options they offer. And I'm going to expand the oak folder. And I'm going to click on the unfinished material. And again, watch what happens to my mouse when I bring it into the plan. It changes to a spray icon indicating I can update the material. And in the bottom left-hand corner, there's different scoping modes for how you can apply the material. I'm currently on the component mode, meaning I'll only change one component of the cabinet. So if I click on the door, I only update the door. But if I switch to object mode, I'll update the material on the cabinet anywhere the white material is present. So there we updated that material. And then you could update materials on a room-wide, floor-wide, or plan-wide basis if you wanted to. If you look at a photo of the finished design, you'll notice that this oak material has really got a darker stain applied to it. So let's go ahead and make that adjustment. I'm going to go to the Stain with Glazes folder, and I'm going to select this option for Drift Java. It's kind of a brownish material. And when I bring my mouse into the plan, you'll notice that this time it looks like a little rolling pin, indicating that I can blend this brown material with the oak finish. If I click on the cabinet, you can see how that updated. So the next thing I am going to update is going to be the countertop material. And earlier I was on Pentel Quartz's website, and they had a countertop material called Arctic, and they have the product code available here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight it and copy it. And then I'm going to go back to the library browser in chief, and I'm going to right click and paste it in and press enter on my keyboard. And you can see it brings it up. And if I select it and right click and select this show in browser option, you can see where that's located in the library browser under our Pentel Quartz manufacturer. So with that material selected, I'm just going to click on the cabinet to adjust the material, and you can see how that's coming in. So that's going to be all the library browser items we're going to use for the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and close it. But next, if you wanted to continue designing this cabinet, if I double click on it, there's basically limitless ways you can design cabinetry in Chief Architect. If you wanted to modify information about the size of it, you can. Countertops automatically generate with your base cabinets in the software, and you can control information with that here. And again, we'll be looking at countertop design options later in the software and how we can manually control them. You can modify information about the toe kick. On the left, if we go to the box construction panel, you can specify whether it's going to be framed or frameless, and information about the overlay amount or whether it's in inset style. On this front sides back panel, this is how you can control how the face of the cabinet is configured, or the side or the back in relation to the door or drawer arrangement. On the door drawer panel, here's where you can pick the door style if you wanted to pick it through a dialog. You can also specify information about your hardware here. You can add other accessories to your cabinets, specify how the opening indicator should look. If you're working with wall cabinets, you can specify a molding, and then other pieces of information about the cabinet. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this since we didn't make any changes. And if I'm happy with how this cabinet looks, and I want to use this as a standard for all my other cabinets going forward, I'm going to select this option in the bottom toolbar that says Set as Default. And that's going to give me a message saying that the base cabinet defaults have been updated. So now whenever I use our cabinet tool, they'll come in based on this design style. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this base cabinet. And next, let's work on the design, starting with this corner kind of in the left-hand side. So what I'm going to do is rotate my view slightly, and then go up to our cabinet tools, make sure I have the base cabinet selected, and then move my mouse. And as I push it in the corner, you can see how that updates to a corner cabinet. And then I'm going to also add a cabinet right next to it. And then if we take a look at the photo of the finished design, what we have right here is a cabinet that's wider than our current cabinet, and it's going to have a bank of drawers. So I'm going to go ahead and make that adjustment. So I am going to go ahead and click on the cabinet. And again, you can see that I have the temporary dimensions around this cabinet. And I also have those handles that I can use to resize it. So I'm going to resize it to be 33 inches wide. And when I release my mouse, watch what happens to the door on this cabinet. It changes to a set of double doors, since you probably wouldn't have a single door that's 33 inches wide. Just a smart way the software is helping you out in your design process. But for this cabinet, we know we want a bank of drawers. So if I double click on the cabinet, we can open up the specification and make this modification. And what I'm going to do is, in our 3D preview on the right-hand side, I'm going to click on the double doors, and that jumps us down to the front sides back panel where we can arrange the face of the cabinet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select on the door auto right. And when I select that, you'll notice that items in the lower half of this menu become available to modify it. Here we can change the item type. You can see I currently have the door auto write option selected. And by auto write, that means it'll automatically change it to a double door when it's a wider cabinet. But there's a lot of different item types you can pick from. And I'm just going to go ahead and change this to a drawer. And then if you want to be very specific with the item height, you can do so here. You can change out the door and drawer style on individual face item basis if you wanted. An example of when you might use this is if you had wall cabinets that have two doors and the upper door is a glass door. And you can also show it a percentage open in 3D if you wanted to. But you can see how this is coming in. We have 2 drawers for now. And what we really want is 4 drawers. So I'm going to select one of these drawers. And in these options right here, we have an option that says split horizontal. If I click on it, it just chops it in half. So now we have 3 drawers. And then I'm going to do that one more time. And now we have 4 drawers. Now I want to make sure all these drawers are the same size. And if I click on this vertical layout parent, there's a button here that says equalize. And what this will do is it'll make sure that they're all the same size. You don't have to go through and select a drawer, make sure it's at the correct height, select another drawer, make sure that's the correct height. You're just letting the software do that math for you. So I'm going to click on equalize and then click on OK. And then you can see how that updates in our 3D view. So next I want another copy of this cabinet right next to it. So I'm going to select the cabinet, select the button that says copy, select the option that says reflect about object, and I'm just going to reflect it about the edge of itself. And there we've got that second cabinet in place. And then next I'm just going to have 2 more cabinets along this wall over here. So I'm going to select this cabinet and I'm going to hold control, which lets us select multiple objects, select copy, and then select reflect about, and then reflect about this diagonal cabinet. And if instead of having a diagonal cabinet, you wanted a pie cut cabinet, you can double click on it to open up its specification. And there's an option down towards the bottom that says diagonal door that will change that to a pie cut cabinet if you wanted to. I'm fine with it being a diagonal cabinet for this webinar, so I'm just going to cancel that. But next, let's go ahead and add some wall cabinetry over in this area of the plan. So to do that, I'm going to go up to our cabinet tools. I'm going to select the wall cabinet and I get that little 3D preview indicating where it's going to be placed. And as I push it into the corner, you can see how it updates. And you can see that I had a molding already on this cabinet through our default settings. And as I select another wall cabinet and place it, watch what happens to the moldings between these 2 cabinets as I bump them into each other. Chief automatically reconfigures the molding so that instead of having a molding splitting these cabinets, you have just one continuous board of molding. So it's just a way that the software is smart in recognizing a real world design scenario. As I mentioned, these moldings and Chief are smart. If we double click on this cabinet to open it up, and instead of having a cabinet with a diagonal door, let's say it had a bowed depth. So I'm going to change that bow to be 3 inches and then click on OK. You can see that molding automatically reconfigures. So just a cool way that the software is working for us. Let's go ahead and undo that and then add one more wall cabinet over in this area. And then I'm going to add another wall cabinet over along this wall. And then I'm going to resize it so that it's not protruding into the window. I'm going to resize it until it's 21 inches on that temporary dimension. And then I'm going to flip the direction that this door is opening. So I'm going to double click on it to open up the specification, click on the door, and then change it from an auto right to an auto left and click on OK. And there we have that cabinet in the design. So the next part of the webinar, what we need is just a mirrored copy of all these cabinets on the right-hand side over here. So what I'm going to do is in our 3D view, I am going to hold control and select all the cabinets that we have. And then I'm just going to use that same tool we used earlier to copy it, reflect it about. We're going to reflect it about the range. And you can see how those are now coming in on the other side. So next, let's go ahead and add a backsplash underneath the wall cabinets and along this back wall. And then we'll also add a wall niche between our range and the hood. So I'm going to go over to our cabinetry tools, which is where the custom backsplash feature resides. I'm going to select it. I'm going to click once to place it along the walls. And one thing that is neat about this feature is that it reconfigures itself based on the objects you have along the wall. So you'll notice that I have a window selected. And if I move the window, the backsplash updates so that it's not protruding into the window. Let's go ahead and undo that movement. And then next, let's go ahead and add that wall niche in this area. And the wall niche tool resides underneath our window tools. So I'm going to select it and then come in and click to place it. And then I'm going to make sure that I have it centered on that range. And there we've got it centered. So that's the designing we're going to be doing for this moment. Next, let's take a look at how you can create a wall elevation in the software. We're going to create something close to this, not exactly this, but I just wanted to show you how you can create a wall elevation and then add dimensions to them using the automated dimensioning features. So I'm going to jump back into the plan and I'm going to close our 3D view. And then I am going to go up to our elevation tools and select the wall elevation. And right here is where I'm going to click and point it along this back wall. And you can see that quickly creates a clean looking elevation. And if you wanted to modify this so that it had a mask over these drawers for that wall cabinet, you can do so just using the CAD tools up here. You can also use your text tools if you wanted to add text. But for the quick purpose of this demonstration, we're just going to add dimensions and take a look at how those features work. So I'm going to go to our dimensioning features, and we have automatic dimension tools and manual dimension tools. We're going to use our automatic dimension tools and then make some manual adjustments to them. So with our automatic dimension tool selected, there's an option here that says NKBA auto elevation dimensions. When I click on this, it's going to locate dimensions and place dimension strings around the plan in accordance with NKBA standards. Now, you'll notice that these dimensions are picking up a lot of points. If I select on this dimension string, you can see that we have diamonds going throughout the different objects in the plan where the dimensions are picking them up. You can remove dimensions from the dimension string by selecting these diamonds and then just dragging them off the design. So I'm just going to come through and drag the diamonds off the wall niche. Oh, there, I selected the wall niche and now I have that dimension off it. I'm going to bring them off the window. And just with a few clicks, we quickly cleaned up this dimension string. Now, if you wanted to add dimensions into the plan, you can click on the dimension string and you'll notice that where I clicked that there is an extra diamond handle, and I can click this and bring it into the plan, and you can see how we added the mark to this dimension string. So really quick to add and modify your dimensions. So the process for working with the elevation is you would just go around it and recognize what type of objects you're automatically locating and remove objects that you don't want to locate. So pretty quick and easy to modify dimensions in Chief Architect. I'm going to go ahead and save this elevation view and then close it. And you can see where that call out is. And if we ever wanted to open it up again, we can just double click on it. So the next thing I am going to do, if we take a look at the photo again, is we are going to add a microwave into this base cabinet and then add a fridge, partitions, and a wall cabinet over onto this right-hand side. So back in the plan, I'm going to select our camera tools. And this time I'm going to be using the full camera, which is more of a first person point of view. And I'm going to click and point it at this wall on the right-hand side. And you can see how that came in. And then the first thing we're going to do is add that microwave. So what I'm going to do is go over to the library browser over on the right-hand side. And I'm going to go down to the user catalog where I already have a microwave from Genair in place. And with it selected, I'm just going to bring my mouse over to this cabinet and click once. And you can see how the program automatically adjusts that cabinet and it has a drawer at the bottom. So next, if I know I wanted to use this cabinet in the future design, I can select this cabinet and there's an option here that says add to library. When I click on this, it's going to add it to our user library. And now we can just rename it if we wanted to and reuse it in future designs. So a nice quick way to create something once and save it again, save it and then use it again in future plans. So you don't have to redo the work. So the next thing I'm going to do is add that fridge with those partitions in the wall cabinets. And I have those saved as what's called an architectural block in the software. An architectural block allows you to group items together and move them around in a single unit. So in this case, I have the fridge architectural block added in my user catalog, and I'm just going to click once in the plan to place it. And you can see how it came in. And then I'm going to jump back to the floor plan view and then move it in against this back wall and then bump it up against those cabinets. And if we look in the 3D view, you can see how it's coming in. And if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it says architectural block. And we can unblock this unit so that we can modify the different components individually if we wanted to by clicking on this option that says explode architectural block. So now we can select the fridge, the partitions, and the wall cabinets individually and modify them as we desire. If you ever wanted to block items together again, what you do is you just hold Control, select the items you want to block, and then in the bottom toolbar, select the Make Architectural Block option. So that's how that works. Pretty easy to create those architectural blocks, save them to your user library, and then recycle them in future plans. And I've already done that for an island that we're going to add to the design. To add this island, I am actually going to jump back into our floor plan view to add it. I'm going to click once, and then I'm going to spin it around, and then just make sure I have it centered in the room. And then I'm going to dimension it so that it's 48 inches away from our range. And if we look back in the 3D view, you can see how that is coming into the design. And what this island really is it's just a bunch of cabinets that you've bumped up next to each other and added other fixtures to. So if we look at this side of the island, you can see that there's a dishwasher and a trash pullout that I've added to it, along with the sink faucet. And let's go ahead and add a sink to it. But before I do that, I need to explode it so I can modify the individual items. There we've got them, that architectural block exploded. And now if I wanted to, I can click and modify these items. But what we're going to do is we're going to add this sink from Kohler that I have in my user library. And I'm just going to click once to add it. And you can see how it automatically cuts a hole in that countertop and drops that sink in. So for the next part of the webinar, let's go ahead and close this library browser since we don't need it anymore, I believe. And what we're going to look at next is how you can use the software to show the client various design options and help upsell your jobs. So in this example, we're looking at island countertop options, and we have 4 options to present to the client. The first option is just going to extend the current countertop by 9 inches so you have a seating area. The second option is going to curve that flat edge. The next part is we're going to undo that curve and then make a thick 6-inch block. And then the last option is going to waterfall it off the side. So I'm going to jump back to our 3D view. And if I select on the countertop, notice in the bottom left corner, it says base cabinet. The reason for this is that when you add cabinets into the design, it automatically has a countertop associated with it. However, I'm going to select the 3 base cabinets by holding Control in the area that I want to modify the countertop. And then in the bottom toolbar, there's an option that says Generate Custom Countertop. And when I click on that, it disassociates the countertop from the base cabinet. And if you look in the bottom left corner again, it says Custom Countertop. So with that countertop selected, you can see that this little red square handle indicating that this is the edge I have selected. And I'm just going to click it and drag it out. And as I extend it, I'm going to press Tab. And this brings up a menu where you can specify how far you want to extend it. So I'm going to specify that I'm going to move it 9 inches and click on OK. And that's going to take care of the first countertop design option to show the client, just a simple extension of the countertop. For the next option, we're going to curve this flat edge. So I'm going to select the edge. And then in the bottom toolbar, there's an option here that says Change Line to Arc. And I'm going to select it. And you can see how it made that adjustment. If you want to adjust how much it's curving with it selected, there's a little square there's a little square triangle right here that you can use to modify how much it's curving. So I'm going to press undo twice to get back to our flat edge. And if we look at the third countertop design option, we just have a thick 6-inch block. So let's go ahead and present this countertop design option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the countertop and open up its specification. And there's a checkbox here that says set thickness from cabinet. And the cabinet has this setting set at 1.5 inches, but we can just simply type in a new thickness and click on OK. And you can see how it bumped up that countertop. And now we have a thick 6-inch block. And then for the last option, we're going to waterfall this block off either edge. So I'm going to go back to the plan. And I know that the countertop is extending the base cabinets by 1 inch. And I need it to extend by 6 inches so that our waterfall cleanly goes to the floor. So I need to bring it out another 5 inches. And so I'm going to select the countertop, select the red handle and extend it and press tab. Specify I'm going to be modifying it by 5 inches. So now we have it extended 6 inches over the base cabinet. And then in the bottom toolbar, there's an option that says add waterfall to selected edge. I'm just going to click on it once and it's going to drop that waterfall to the floor. And then we're going to do the same thing on this edge, just bring it out, press tab to extend it, bring it out another 5 inches and click on OK. And then bring it to the floor. Looks like I didn't have it selected there. And there we have it brought to the floor. So there, in just a matter of minutes, we created 4 countertop design options. You probably would export a photo of each option to send to the client like I did. Just a quick way to present the client with various options, and it can also help add some value to your jobs. So the next thing I want to look at is how you can use the material features in the software to present different material options to the client. So here I have the design that we've been working on. And down below, we have 3 additional material options you can present the client with and further upsell your job. So let's go ahead and look at it. And this is using a feature called the style palette. So style palettes reside in the user library in the software. And you can see I already have some style palettes created for different different design styles. And if I click on it, you can see the different items I have in this style palette and the materials being used. And then when I bring my house into the plan or bring my mouse into the plan, it changes to a spray icon. And in the bottom left corner, you can specify the scoping mode for how you would like to distribute your style palette. And I'm going to switch it to plan wide and then click once in the room. And you can see how that updated the design. So that updated the flooring material, our cabinet doors and drawer style, the material on the cabinets, backsplash, and other properties about the room. If we look at the next item, the next style palette, this is a style palette I have called Nautical. If I click once in the room, you can see how that looks in the design. And then the last item is called Bachelor View. And I'm going to click once in the room. And you can, again, see how our material is updated there. So the next thing we're going to do is look at the tray ceiling feature in the software. So I'm going to click once in the room. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, there's an option here that says Make Tray Ceiling in Room. And when I click on this, the program is going to ask, how do you want to add this tray ceiling? So here you can specify the width for how far it's coming out from the walls and the depth for how deep it's recessed into the ceiling. And you can specify a pitch for it. And then next you can specify a molding, and I do have a molding included in it. And then you can also specify rope lights, and I do have a rope light in there, and then different materials for the tray ceiling. And I do have the same material being used for the flooring up in that tray ceiling. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And you can see how it's going to add that tray ceiling. And these tray ceilings are smart, and they recognize that if you have objects in the ceiling, such as this pendant light, it should get bumped up into the ceiling. So the next thing I want to look at is the different rendering technique features in the software. And to do this, I'm actually going to open up a slightly modified version of the plan that has a few more items few more items in place, really just can lights in the ceiling to help with the lighting. And let's just take a 3D view. So there we've got this plan, this version of the plan with can lights in the ceiling added. Let's go ahead and close the library browser. And there's different 3D rendering techniques in the software that help bring out different things in the design. If I click on this button in the top toolbar that says rendering techniques, on the left-hand side, we have different rendering techniques. And we've been working in the standard rendering technique, which is a great rendering technique to work in. It looks really good, and it's quick and fast to work in. I'm going to select this option that says vector view and watch what happens to some of the materials in the plan. You can see that the material is replaced with a color and a series of lines showing a pattern. So just kind of a nice way to bring a different level of detail out. If we take a look at a few other of these, if we look at the glass house rendering technique, this rendering technique allows you to see through objects to see what's going on inside them. Or if you had rooms on the other side of walls, you could see where those rooms are located. A lot of people like this watercolor rendering technique. It's just kind of a nice visualization that looks a little bit crafty. This line drawing rendering technique is similar to the watercolor, but with no colors. And this is a nice rendering technique if you're just trying to focus on the form of the design without getting bogged down by material questions at this point. So just a nice way to make sure that the form is how the client wants it. And then the last rendering technique I want to show, and this is a rendering technique that's new to Chief Architect X13, is called physically based ray tracing. And this is the rendering technique that creates a photorealistic view of the design in very little time. So when it starts, it does what's called passes, and the further that you let it run, the better it looks. And you can already see compared to just a few seconds ago how it's looking much better. So this is the photorealism in the software, and what you would do from here is export an image of this, and you could send it to the client or post it on your website or Facebook for marketing material. And the longer you let this run, the further the better the image turns out. The last thing I want to talk about is the mobile app that we have with the software. We're not going to go into a lot of detail about the app, but this is a viewing app that allows you to send a 3D Chief Architect model to your client to view in a web browser or on their tablet or phone. So once you have the design created and you want your client to review it, what you do is you go to File, Export Chief Architect 3D Viewer file, and this just creates a 3D model that you send to the client. What it does is it creates a web link, you email it to the client, and if they're viewing it on a laptop or a desktop, they click on the link and it allows them to view the model in a web browser. Or if they have downloaded our free app, it allows them to view it on the mobile app. And this mobile app's great in that it has joysticks so they can walk through it. And it also has virtual reality features so that by just physically holding their tablet, they can walk through the space so that when they walk in real life, they'll be walking through the virtual model. So that's going to be the content I had for this webinar. I was using Chief Architect Premier today, but nearly everything we did, you could also do in Chief Architect Interiors. We have both a Mac and a PC version of the software available. So if you wanted to give either one of those a try, you can download a free trial from over on the website. If you want to send me an email with any questions that you may have, my email address is up there on the screen. And if you want to just speak with someone, you can reach out to us at the phone number on the screen. And with that, I'd like to again thank Debbie for letting us host the demo today. And with that, we're going to open up to questions. Debbie, did we have any questions come in?
Hi, Philip. Thanks so much. That was a great walkthrough. It's always so interesting to see what's going on with your product. Thank you. So yes, we have questions. So, and of course, they always come at the end, right? So I'm just going to dive in. So Stephanie would like to know, she says, I have Chief Architect Interiors. She's got two questions. She said, when Chief began hosting, when will they begin hosting webinars again? And what would be the benefit of upgrading to premium?
Yeah, good question, Stephanie. So we don't have any live webinars on our plate right now scheduled, but I'll take a note of that and bring it to the team here and let them know that there's definitely some interest in it. And then the second question was about what's the difference between the interiors and the Premier version. So the interiors version is going to focus solely on kitchen, bath, and interior design, whereas the Premier version expands on that and includes all the features of the interiors version. Plus, it includes more things like framing and landscaping, decks. You can do roads and sidewalks, more structural features in the software.
Great, good, great. Thank you for that. And then Carly, she's asking, is there a free student version of this program?
We do have a student version of the software available. If you go to our website, I can show you where you can find information about that. So if you hover over this option that says profession, there's a link that says academic, and there's where you can learn what you need to send in to qualify for our academic license.
That's great. Thank you very much. And I think NKBA also has information on it if any of our student members need that too. Okay, then Gina's asking, will you speak, Philip, about purchase options? And does the program have an export DXF or DWG option?
Yeah, good questions. So I'll just the exporting options. You can export both a DWG and DXF file from the software. And you can also import those type of files as well. And then there's multiple purchasing options. Since we're focusing on the Premier version, I'll kind of highlight on that. But you can purchase it just as an outright purchase, or you can rent it by the month for $199 a month. And with the Premier version, if you rent it for 22 consecutive months, you would own the software. And if you were to purchase the interiors version, the outright purchase price is a little bit different. And on the rental option, if you rent it for 15 consecutive months, I believe, you would own the software. So you're not locked into a contract on that rental. So if you only have need for it here and there, you can start and stop a rental as needed. You can also do what we call a rental buyout, where you can start a rental just to get your feet wet and make sure it's going to work for you. And if you decide, you know what, this is going great, and you want to go ahead and commit to a purchase, you can give us a call and do the rental buyout. And for each payment you've made, approximately $170 of that gets applied towards the purchase price, and then you can pay off the balance. So yeah, good question. Two options to purchase the software, doing a outright purchase or renting the software.
Thank you, Philip. And then from Hilly, when will the next Home Designer Pro update be coming?
Yeah, good question. So the question was, when will the next version of the software or update be available? We come out with a new version about every year to year and a half. The particular version that we're on is Chief Architect Premier X13. We also have a line of consumer level software called Home Designer Software, which is what the person that asked the question was referring to. And we'll probably have a version, if I had to guess, come out maybe late next spring or next summer. We have a new version come out about every year to year and a half, and the last version was released in June, I believe.
Great, thank you. And then Gina is asking a couple of things here. Can a specific library of cabinets, doors, and extras be imported into the program? And then for a new user or someone who's a beginner, what are the training options and or process?
Yeah, good questions. So two questions there. How do you get catalogs into the software? If you go to our website and hover over the option that says User Center, you'll see a link here that says Catalog Downloads, where you can download manufacturer content, including cabinetry manufacturers. Some of this content is available on the free trial, but I do know that some of it is reserved until the purchase is made. Like I know the cabinetry manufacturers is reserved until the purchase is made. And then for training, we have a lot of training options. There's going to be over 500 videos, 700 tutorials, demos, manuals, and more. And these are all available for free. Even if you just download the trial of the software, you can access all these. And you don't need an online account or any sort of login or anything like that to access them. You can just access them from the face of the website. Yeah, so good question about catalog downloads and training.
Thank you. And then from Trish, how different is Chief if you're using a Mac instead of Windows?
So the only difference between the Mac and the PC version is in regards to this real-time ray tracing feature I was just showing. The Mac hardware is not as powerful as the PC hardware, and so it just can't do this advanced 3D rendering to perform the photorealistic scenes. But other than that, it's exactly the same between the feature set. And you can still do all the other rendering techniques, the standard, the vector view, all the other rendering techniques. But just the advanced photorealism that you see with the physically based rendering technique is not available on the Mac version.
Okay, and then from Victoria, and this may be a similar question, but how do we get style palettes on Chief? Is there a download?
Yeah, so good question. I'm not going to go through all the details on how to make them. You can download some on the website. And then also kind of how you get started creating a style palette is in your library browser. If you right click on the user catalog and go to new, there's an option here that says style palette. So you click on that and then you go through and then you add various objects to the style palette and kind of design them as you're going through them. So that's one way you can create a style palette. And you can also hold control and select items in your existing plan. And there's an option down here that says add objects to style palette. That'll create a style palette. So that's the basics of how to create them. There's also a video on the website that will show how to create them in more detail.
So that's pretty cool. So that style palette is something that if you use those styles a lot, you can just refer right there.
Yeah, it's an awesome feature. If you've created a design once and a client really likes the material selections you can use, why not save it and use it again in future designs? Since you've already done the work once and it's just there and it's easy to go next time around.
Great feature. So I've got a lot more questions. We still have time. So
yeah, absolutely. Let's go through them.
Okay. So from Karen, is this compatible on a tablet?
Yeah, so good question. So our full design software itself is too powerful for a tablet, but we do have that viewing app that's available for free for a tablet. And if you just go to the App Store and type in Chief Architect 3D Viewer, it should be one of the top results, if not the only results. And that's kind of what the icon looks like.
Great, thank you. And then from Carrie, is there a USB key or a login?
Yeah, so you do not need to have a USB key plugged into your computer in order to use the software. That was an older technology that we haven't had in a long time that has, you haven't had to plug into your computer at all times in order to use. We do have a USB that you can order with the software, and it just has the software installer on it. It's the exact same thing as the download, but some people just like to have that if they have a slow internet connection for installing the software, or if they like to use it sometimes for transferring plans back and forth from one computer to another.
Okay, great. And then let's see, I'm just trying to get through all these questions.
Oh yeah.
So from Annette, can you add catalogs that are not available on Chief's website?
You can, yeah. So if you find a 3D object from another website, you can often bring it into the software and use it in the program. So you can bring in things like furniture or molding profiles. You can create custom materials. So if your manufacturers have material swatches on their website, you can get those and bring those in the software and use them in your plans.
Okay. And then from Gail, what support is available if someone needs help?
Yeah, so if you have how-to questions in the software, we have training available that can help really help you out there. There's one-on-one training where our staff uses a screen sharing service, and you typically want to call a few days out to schedule this. And how that works, they use a screen sharing service so you can see their screen and they can see yours. And you can send in a list of questions or a specific scenario or specific designer you're going over. Kind of what you go over in that one-on-one training is up to you. And this is a paid training service that we offer, but there is also a user forum. And this user forum is a really great resource because there's people that have been using the software on the forum since the software was created. And they're really advanced, really knowledgeable, really helpful, really friendly. You can post your question, you can post pictures, you can post plans, and they're really, really quick to get back to you with a detailed answer.
That's great. So the user forum sounds like right on the spot if you need something.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't stress enough how great of a resource it is. The people on there are super awesome and willing to help people out.
Great. Thanks, Philip. So here's some more. So I'm going to keep going.
All right.
Okay. From Keith. So when we were talking about the manufacturer's catalogs, as an example, you showed a Wellborn catalog. So how often do the manufacturers keep their catalogs current for the software that we're using here?
Yeah, great question. So we ask our manufacturers to update their catalogs at least once a year. And if you notice that you're using a manufacturer that has an outdated catalog, definitely let us know, and we can talk with them to see what we need to do to get it updated.
Okay, great. And then from Christina, this is a very specific question. She says, I have a light bleed line between the top of the walls and ceiling in all 3D render views. It happens if the lights are on or off. Any suggestions for getting rid of that? She says, I'm on Premiere X13.
Yeah, the only thing I would have to, without seeing the plan, it's hard to know what's going on without seeing the plan. But the first suggestion I can try to make is to add a roof onto the design. If that doesn't seem to work, you can post it on the user forum, or you can also send something like that into our tech support to take a look at.
Great. And then from Tamara, what are the rendering differences between Premiere and interiors? Any quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, no differences between the rendering features between the interiors version and the Premiere. Exact same rendering features.
Okay, and then from Katie, X13 under my rendering techniques, the physically based rendering does not say ray trace next to it. She says, when I open the technique options, like use ray tracing is checked, but it's not allowing her to use that option. She's not sure what she's doing wrong, but is that a forum question?
So there are a couple things there. She could be using the Mac version, which doesn't have the specific ray trace capability of it. So that could be one culprit. The second thing is to use this physically based ray tracer, it typically requires a newer video card. It could be that her system just doesn't have one of these video cards to perform the advanced ray tracing. So that's kind of the two things I can at least guess at without having a deeper conversation with her.
Okay, and then from Cynthia, since we're talking ray tracing, is that available on interior version as well?
It is, yep. So it's available in both Chief Architect Premiere and Chief Architect Interiors in the X13 version of the software, so in the current version.
Okay. And then another one from Cynthia. So adding fillers, can independent designers access cabinet manufacturers even if they're not a dealer?
They can, yeah. So what provides you with access to the manufacturer catalogs in the software is having what we call support and software assurance. And you'll see that referred to as SSA. If you purchase the software outright, it includes 1 year of the support and software assurance. And then if you rent it, it includes support and software assurance through your rental term. So for interiors, that'd be 15 months and Premiere 22 months. So that's included for 1 year. And then that provides you with access to all the manufacturer catalogs and bonus catalogs that we have on the website available for download.
Okay, and then from Melissa, can you use the physically based function with the interior version?
You can, yep. So for the rendering features, the Premiere and Interiors version both have this physically based ray trace feature if your computer hardware supports it.
Great. And then from Dawn, are there costs for each update?
Yeah, so good question. So the cheapest way to stay current with the software year over year is just to renew this support and software assurance. It's $525 a year, but you're not required to renew this. Chief Architect, with the exception of just renting it month to month if you choose to, but this is not a annual subscription if you just do the outright purchase. But what keeps you current is renewing the support and software assurance that runs alongside it. And this is an optional renewal at $525 a year.
Okay, thank you. And then from Cynthia, I think this is a good one. What kind of hardware specs do you need on your PC to run this program?
Yeah, so good question. So on our website, you can see all the fine details on system requirements. If you hover over the option that says products, there's a link that says system requirements. And then what we typically recommend, if you're going to be computer shopping or shopping for hardware to perform the real-time ray tracing, is we recommend a gaming video card. If you're computer shopping, you can tell your local computer expert that you need a gaming computer with specifically either a GeForce RTX or an AMD Radeon 6000 series video cards. And those are the more advanced, more modern video cards that will perform the real-time ray tracing. So yeah, if you're going to be computer shopping, that's typically what we recommend, is looking for a gaming computer with a powerful video card.
That's a great tip. Thanks for that, Philip. And thanks for showing the system requirements. I got two more for you, and then we'll probably wrap it up. So from Michelle, can designs from other software be imported and or exported?
Yeah, good question. So it depends on the file type that the design was created in. For example, if you create a CAD, if you have a CAD file and bring it in, it's just going to come in as CAD lines, and then you can trace over the CAD lines to recreate the design. So that's a good question. It really depends on the file type and what is or is not included in your specific file type. It might be good to give us a call to get more detail on that question, or you can send me a note to get the more detail about that.
That's great. And then a final one here, and someone's saying, wait, what? You only have to purchase once and just renew the support?
Yeah. So that's one of the things is it's not a subscription that you're paying, $2,000 a year for. You can make the upfront purchase and then just renew that support and software assurance year over year if you want to stay current with all of our latest and greatest offerings.
That's a great tip. Thanks. And then a final one here. Does Chief have scenes that can be added outside of windows and doors? Not sure if that makes sense to you, but
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So he is asking about a feature called backdrops. So you can see what looking out a door or window looks like. And the software comes with a handful of backdrops in it. And if you're out on an empty lot, you can take a picture of the lot and bring it into the software to use as a backdrop. So you can see what looking out the door or window will look like. Under the core catalogs, there's a folder here for backdrops, and you can also download more backdrops from our website. But essentially, you go through and you select the photo of the scene, and then you kind of click on the window. You can see how that updates. You can see what looking out a door or a window might look like. So it's just another fun way to interact with the design. And if you're having a client that's building on a new lot, it's a way you can show them what the design will look like on their lot.
that's pretty cool.
Yep, so this is the feature called backdrops.
That's great, Philip. Well, everyone is thanking you, and I think we've pretty much come to the end of the questions, and it was a great presentation. Thanks so much. And like I said, everyone's thanking you here in the chat, Philip. And
Yeah.
we're obviously recording, so the recording will be sent to all of you. And I thank you so much, Philip, for this wonderful presentation. It was really, really just a great way for people to learn more about the software.
Absolutely. Thanks for letting us host, Debbie. And if anybody out there is interested in giving the trial a run, that's available on the website. And if you had questions that we weren't able to answer, feel free to shoot me an email, just philip@chiefarchitect.com.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Thank you.